Hey, welcome back to Mavericks Brewing. Again, it's the early years. We are still without a place, but hopefully that'll change soon so we can go ahead and get our permits and start brewing commercially for real. Not that we're not brewing for real now, it's just that it'd be nice to have a brewery, and a place set up and everything. But today we're brewing a bourbon ale. Had a little taste of a bourbon ale the other day. Really loved it. Wanted to make it for myself. I picked up a whiskey barrel and we're going to give it a try. So right now we're just grinding up our specialty grains, and then we're going to move on to the mash as soon as my water heats up in the hot liquor tank. All right, here we go. A little loud, but the way it is. All right, I'm going to pour in the rest of the specialty grains. I got them already measured out in this bag. Again, this grinder is very convenient. I can store my grains now, and I'll kind of show you how I'm storing them currently until I get my place, but keeping them fresh in coolers, and it works really well. Wow, ain't it? Disconnecting my grill to my grinder, my barley crusher. Almost done there. Okay, that's all done. One of the nice things about having a barley crusher is I can store my grains, and they can maintain their freshness a little bit longer. When you grind them up, you got to put them in plastic bags or vacuum seal them. You can also store them that way. But I just go out and buy my grains whole, and I can buy in bulk. And I'll kind of turn you around here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can get it. See those coolers up on that shelf right there? That's how I'm storing my grains. I can buy it in bulk, 50-pound bags, get them in these coolers. I also have one up there, and we can store them, and they're as fresh as when I bought them. They even stay fresher than in the bag. So I'm going to finish up grinding up all these grains, and we're going to move into the mashing process for this beer. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Hey, welcome back. Okay, we've dumped our 2 buckets, you can see, of our grains. It's pretty high alcohol by volume beer, so it's taking a lot of grains. We moved, you haven't seen, let me kind of move this back so you can kind of see what's going on here. All right. There we go. Okay. Basically what we have here is our hot liquor tank. That stores our water, about to fill it back up since we've dumped all the water out of it and moved it into the mash tun, which is right here. Right now we're mashing in a recirculating mash system. The temperature is proprietary. How I get my grains to 95% or so efficiency. It varies by recipe depending on whether I want a light body, a medium body, or a full body beer. This is going to be a full body beer, but I can show you the system. Basically I have a pump, and it's recirculating the mash. I've got a digital thermometer keeping track of my mash temperatures in the recirculation. So let me show you the recirculation real quick, and we'll continue on after this. Again, mashing, depending on how you want to do it, you know, you can just let it sit at one temperature, say 152, 154 degrees. You're just not going to get the basically the efficiency that I want to get to commercially brew. Again, it's a high attenuation beer, but I need it to be full body, so there's some changes and everything that need to occur. Okay, that's the mash tun. I'm going to open it up. Hopefully my thermometer won't fall in. As you can see, as you look in there, you'll see the recirculating system. I also have a burner underneath that I can adjust the temperature and increase the temperature and lower the temperature underneath. I don't know if you can see up underneath there, but there's the burner for that. You're going to need some three-way valves to accomplish this and a pump, but it's really efficient. You can get the most out of your grains doing this. All right, now it's a hurry up and wait process. We'll be kind of adjusting the temperatures as we go throughout this whole process, but I'm not going to videotape that because that's mine. Figure it out on your own. It's not that hard. Make sure after your mashing is done, you're going to want to take a first runnings OG. You're going to want to take, after you use sparge, and a pre-boil OG. That will give you your efficiency. If you use Beersmith or something like that, you can plug those numbers in and give you your mash efficiency. I'm hovering somewhere in the 95 to 98% range, if that'll tell you anything. All right, Mavericks will be back as soon as we start running our first runnings into the kettle, and then we'll go into the boil, adding our hops and everything else. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, we're still mashing. Just some pointers on your mashing. If you're doing a cooler style mash or just a single stage type of mash like that where constant temperature, every once in a while you want to open that thing up, stir it around, give it a good stir, probably every 20 minutes or so. Now I pull about a 90-minute mash on all my beers just because of the temperature mash, but it's not a bad idea to extend the mash out. Coolers are really nice about keeping heat in. The problem is sometimes when you're on a really cold day, your cooler can drop down a little bit too much, and you'll start getting into those lower temperatures, and you'll lose some of the body in your beer. The rule of thumb basically is, at least what I've been following and what I've learned over the last couple years of brewing, especially all grain, is basically the lower the temperature, when you start getting into the 140s to 150s, you start pulling out a lot more of the fermentables than you pull out body. As you increase the temperature through 150s up into the lower 160s, 156, 158, you're starting to develop that body in the beer. And depending on the type of beer you want, whether you want it sweet or whether you want it drier, the longer you hold it, the lower temperatures, the drier the beer will be. And if you can get in the mid-range, of course, you sacrifice some fermentables that way. But it really comes down to the type of beer you want to make and the flavor you want to come up with. And you really just got to play around with it. Every beer is a little different. Take a lot of good notes. I take notes on everything. I adjust things when I think something's not exactly the way I want it to be. But you can do the same thing. Take real good notes about your temperatures, how long you mashed for, your OGs, both first runnings after you sparge, and your OGs and your kettles. That way you can make these subtle changes in your beer and come up with some better flavors. And once you get it right, you have all the information that you need to make it happen. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. All right, we're at the end of the mash, and we're going to start getting our first runnings. Here's the signal for the end of the mash. So, I'm going to take our thermometer out, turn off our alert, turn it off. All right, now we're going to start with our first runnings. Again, what we're going to do, got our little stainless steel pot here, and we're going to start running this through to do our vorflocking. of our wort. So here we go. A little high, so I'm going to turn that valve. So all I'm doing is trying to clarify the wort. Any particulates of grains, and we're going to gently pour this back into the mash tun until we have no grains. This pump's probably on its last legs. Sounds like it is. So we're probably due for a new pump. But we're going to do this a few times just to get a nice clear wort. I don't see any particulates of grains. That bed settles down real good. And that's looking pretty good right there. So we're going to go ahead and let that wort just pump through. Nice thing about the rim system is that as you're doing the rim system, it's kind of clarifying it already, so I don't have to vorflock that much. I'm going to open this all the way up. Put this pot over here. Looks like my hose is bent a little bit. Let's move it in there nicely. Now what I'm going to do too is I'm going to get a sample of the OG of my first runnings. So we're going to catch a sample. And that should be plenty. And that's my first runnings. That way I have a good idea about what my efficiency is. I'm going to let this thing pump in, get all that wort out, all the way till the grain bed is dry, and then we'll start sparging. I'm looking to hopefully get around, say, 12 gallons out of the first runnings, maybe a little less, and that's okay, because we're going to sparge right after that. We'll just let this thing pump through. I don't completely cover my kettle, but it's a good idea to just keep your lids in place. But I let that steam come out of the kettle. That way that proteins and everything get out of the wort, but that's usually only when we boil. Right now I'm just keeping it from anything falling into the kettle, and we're just going to let that thing pump up. Let's see if I can adjust this a little bit, because my kettle's just a slight bit off. Well, that didn't help. We'll go the other way. There, that's a little better. All right, we're at about 7.5 gallons right now. Again, we just got to wait for it to pump through, and we'll come back and we'll sparge. Okay, we've done with our first runnings. We've collected our first runnings. The grain bed is dry, and now what we're going to do is switch over to sparging. We're going to use our kettle water, which we got to 170 degrees, and we're going to sparge through this valve right here. So I'm switching my valves back to the sparge kettle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that up until it's just over the grain bed. And we've got to hear it inside is a sparge arm that goes all the way across, and it gently rains down water onto the grain bed. You need to do that because you don't want to disturb that grain bed that much. But we're going to fill this thing up until we get to just over the grain bed. And what we're trying to do and accomplish is get this up to somewhere in the close to the 20. I need 19.5 gallons of water in my kettle to get me to my volume for my fermenter, due to loss and everything else, and it's calculated into my beersmith. But as you can tell, we got to about 12.5, and we're almost there to the top of the grain bed. I assume we're probably going to need another 10 gallons maybe or so to sparge with. Okay, so we're at the top of our grain bed, and now I'm going to go ahead and kind of gate that down and start bringing in my wort for my second runnings, or my sparge runnings. I'm going to slow this baby down, or just even stop it for a second. We'll just stop it for a second. And I'll keep an eye on it because I want to make sure my grain bed is completely covered. We're using that water. And I can also check over here. Right now I've only put in about 5 gallons. And I'm going to expect more is going to be needed. But we're keeping an eye on it, make sure it's flowing, and make sure that level is right over top. I'll kick that pump back on when it starts to get close, as it is right now. And we'll kick that baby back on, and we'll sparge a little bit more. You can do this very slowly, because I've really got to gate it down quite a bit, because I want it to take some time and keep that color in that water. Because the more color, it means I'm getting more sugars into my wort kettle. If it starts running clear, I'll slow it down even more. Sometimes sparging, especially gravity sparging, it takes a little bit longer. The rim system's done a good job of mixing this stuff in, and I'm just keeping a good eye on it. I got nice color coming out of there, and I'll kick this on just a little bit more. Now really watch your volumes. You don't want to over volumize your mash tun. If you over volumize your mash tun, I said about 10 gallons through my calculations, but I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm keeping an eye on how much liquid I got going into the kettle. And again, I'm doing this slowly. I'm not doing it fast. It sounds like it's moving fast, but really I got this gated down pretty good. And right now we're at about 12.5 on our water, and somewhere around the 15 gallon mark, so we're really getting close. Actually, I miscalculated. It's not 19.5. I need about 18 gallons. All right? And we're pretty close. Probably around 16 gallons right now. But this is what you do. You kind of go a little bit, kick on the water. I'm not going to go more than 10 gallons on my, my hot liquor tank. A couple more gallons, I should be right there. Again, my sparge arm's going. I'm keeping that grain bed wet, trying to get as much of those grains out as I can. And once I get to 10 gallons, I'm going to stop and let it all drain out into this kettle. But that's this particular beer. Every beer is a little different. You need to mark this down and write it down about how much water you used and how much sparge water you use. And I'll do that after we're all done. Again, this is a new beer, so you know, I'm kind of playing the numbers here. This may come out correct. It may not. I have to see. I have to see what my mash efficiency is. But I'd like to get it over 17.5 because I know when I get in my fermenter, the trub loss is going to be higher. Probably not too bad with this beer because I only have a couple hops, but I need to watch that trub. I'm going to have to compensate for that in the fermenter so I can get the 15 gallons that I want out of the beer. And we're pretty close. I think I'm going to hold off. Looks like I'm pretty close to 10 gallons. And we're really close to where we want to be volume-wise. I'm going to go all the way down to 10. We're almost there. That's 10 exactly. I'm not putting any more water in right now. because I want all that wort to come out. I want to keep my efficiency high. So we're really close. And we are done. Right there. Done. So I can really cut down on my sparge water just a little bit, maybe 7.5 gallons, 8 gallons, and that won't be a problem. That'll give me the volume I need. I am right at the mark. Now we're going to go ahead and kick on our kettle and start boiling. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, we finished sparging, and this is the pre-boil wort. I take a sample of that, compare it to my first runnings, and I can tell you my mash efficiency on my Beersmith. Good idea. That way you know exactly where you're at. And I really want to be consistent with this on every beer that I make. The more consistent I can be on this, the more I can predict what my OG is going to be in post-boil. Plus, it gives me an idea of what my mash efficiency is. What does that help me out with? Well, it helps me out with grain purchases. If I'm well over my efficiency that I expect, that means either, number one, I used too many grains. I can cut back on my grains. That way it reduces my bill. And I can tweak up the mashing process and the volume. Again, on this beer, being a new beer, I wasn't sure where we were going to be exactly, but I kind of did my calculations and I guesstimated. We were a little bit high on the volume of water in the sparge, but I made up for it in the first runnings. It's got a nice color, as you can tell, and I'm hoping that this will turn out to be a really good and efficient beer. Again, I can cut down on my grains, cuts my costs down a little bit as we go. So always take a pre-boil volume for your OG, put it in the fridge, let it cool down while you're working your boil, and then you can check it as you go. I got some notes to take right now, and I'll be right back with you during the boil. All right, we're in the boil. I've dropped some hops at the very beginning and the 60-minute mark, and we're just kind of waiting. So in this time, we're going to go ahead and check our first runnings OG and our pre-boil OG. I got my hydrometer, I got my thermometer here. I'm going to go ahead and fill up my glass, and we're going to find out what it is. So give me a second. I'm going to walk out here. All right, I filled up my pitot gauge or tube, and get out of my face. And we're going to check it. First, we're going to drop the hydrometer in and get a reading. I'm going to spin it a little bit to make the bubbles go away. Okay, we're at 1.072 on the hydrometer. Okay, I'm going to set that down. I'm going to take a temperature reading real quick on the wort because it definitely affects it. This is calibrated to 60 degrees, and we're at 56 degrees. So I'm going to make a quick calculation. 1.072 at 56 degrees. And let me do my calculation and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I did my calculations. Also did the pre-boil gravity. That was 1.068. I plugged this all into my Beersmith, and let me get over here. Plug this all into my Beersmith. My end of running gravity was 1.071 at 56 degrees, and measured pre-boil gravity was 1.068. My estimated mash efficiency is 97.9%, which is great. I love 97.9%. That's huge. That means we're right on the money when it comes to our OG. Also, it means I really used the grains appropriately and got as much efficiency out of it as possible. The taste of the pre-boil wort and the runnings gravity, exceptional. It's got a nice sweet flavor to it. I think this is going to be really good. Again, now we're in the boil. We're going to do one more OG, which will be our end of boil OG. And we got to drop one more, actually two more hop drops, and we'll be done. And then we're going to cool it down with the convoluted counterflow wort chiller, and it should come out really good. I think we're doing very well. All right, we're going to continue. Okay, now we're coming up on 45 minutes on the boil, and it's time to do our next hop drop. And it's just an ounce. I'll give you the ingredient fugals. There's the timer. Time to go. All right. All right, dropping that hop, stirring it up a little bit. All right, let's let it sit. Got about 15 minutes left in the boil, and we'll be done. So, again, we got a couple more ingredients to drop in about 5 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and start chilling the wort down. This convoluted wort chiller takes about 30 minutes or so to chill the wort down. About 19 gallons in 30 minutes. That's not too bad, not too shabby. All right, we'll see you on the last hop drop and ingredient drop, and then we'll go right into chilling out the wort, which is usually pretty boring. And you just got to sit there and wait until it gets down to temperature. But I can take it from 212 degrees to about 70 degrees in about 30 minutes. All right, we'll see you in just a few. Okay, now we're coming up on 45 minutes on the boil, and it's time to do our next hop drop. And it's just an ounce. I'll give you the ingredient fugals. There's the timer. Time to go. All right. All right, dropping that hop, stirring it up a little bit. All right, let's let it sit. Got about 15 minutes left in the boil, and we'll be done. So, again, we got a couple more ingredients to drop in about 5 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and start chilling the wort down. This convoluted wort chiller takes about 30 minutes or so to chill the wort down. About 19 gallons in 30 minutes. That's not too bad, not too shabby. All right, we'll see you on the last hop drop and ingredient drop, and then we'll go right into chilling out the wort, which is usually pretty boring. And you just got to sit there and wait until it gets down to temperature. But I can take it from 212 degrees to about 70 degrees in about 30 minutes. All right, we'll see you in just a few. Okay, we finished our drop. Man, my pump sounds terrible. I'm definitely going to need a new one. This is my OG post-boil. We're going to let that sit. Probably put it in the freezer, let it get cold real quick. I'm going to show you the convoluted wort chiller. Basically, all it is copper pipe inside a poly pipe, and I have water, just regular tap water coming through the hose, going out there. Going one direction, and the wort flows the opposite direction. And as you can see, it's all hooked up right there. And it'll chill it down. Already, I just started it. It was at 212 degrees boil. Now I'm already down to, say, 186 on the thermometer. So it doesn't take long. We'll see you when we're all done. We're going to transfer over to the fermenter, and then we should be good. And I'll even give you the OG on the post boil OG, and I'll be able to tell you my total efficiency. All right. Okay, we finished chilling, and now we're just transferring from the kettle over into the fermenter. We're pumping it in there. Hopefully we'll get quite a bit out of it. But we're done. And the first day of brewing is over. We got one tomorrow. We're going to make a pumpkin. And this should be done in a few weeks. We're going to let it age for a little while. After all this is over, we're going to put it in a barrel. And I'll get some video of that when we go ahead and do that. Whiskey barrel. It's going to be an interesting flavor. I'm hoping to get a great bourbon ale out of this. I'm calling it One-Eyed Jack, because it's Jack Daniel's barrel that is going into. All right, we'll see you when we transfer over into the barrel. All right, bye. All right. Sierra Nevada, finished up the boil, transferred the wort. Just got to check the OG. First, we got to get a temperature. So, drop this in, take a look, see where we're at. .54 degrees. Hydrometer, drop it in to the, getting close. Need to pour some of that out. Just a skosh. Alright. So it doesn't spill all over my computer. Alright. Let's see where we're at. Sometimes a little hard to read when the bubbles are there. But it looks like we're looking at 1.064, which will give us at 7.1. Not bad. Expect that to be about right. Gravity after primary, gravity after secondary. Okay. All right. Well, no reason to bore you. I'm going to go over my notes, and we're done for today. I'm going to do a taste test. I guess I could do that right now. Let's see how it tastes. Smells good. Ooh, yeah. That's going to be solid. That's a good beer. It's going to be delicious. All right. We'll see you in about 7 to 10 days.